budget presentation is gonna be, about half budget and half like state of the town kind of feeling of all of our ongoing projects. So right here, I put the budget timeline that I put out in the middle of summer. The budget process usually starts around August, and we wrap up by November 20th. And in between there, we have the meetings with departments and all of the deadlines for filing. A little history on the 2% tax cap, because everyone always hears that as a buzzword, but not everyone knows what it is. It came out of inflation back in like 2012. It was determined that the Federal Reserve adopted an inflation target of 2% following the global financial crisis. So the meaning was the goal was for prices to rise 2% each year. So that led to the state of New York creating a law that also implemented a 2% tax cap. And it applies to all independent school districts and local governments. There are some variances between the requirements on school districts and local governments and also cities, but overall 2% with an adjustment for inflation. So over the years, it started off really good. 2012, 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, the 2% seemed fine. Now, 12, 13, 14 years later, it's kind of hard for towns and other local municipalities to keep under this 2% tax cap, as the inflation rate is 7, 6, 3%. It's all exceeding the 2%. So it's not as easy to keep within that guideline of raising prices by 2% every year that the original goal of the 2% tax cap was for. But with that said, here's a graph to show exactly that same rise of inflation. But with that said, we are under the 2% tax cap here at the town for every year so far. So a little recap of 24. Our town and county tax bills come out in February, they're due in March. Majority of the bill is going to be county, and then a smaller portion is town in here, and then you also have the school taxes which come out in the fall. So your overall tax bill, the biggest portion of taxes you pay are going to end up going to the schools. So our little town tax levy is only a 6% portion of what you'd pay on a $150,000 house in the Hamburg School District. So with similar populations to Boston, most the towns you would compare us to most readily based on population would be Collins, Eden, Concord, and Newstead. In those towns, Collins, Newstead, and Boston, we all decreased our tax rate in 23 to 24 in the general and highway funds, and we are second lowest in those comparable, and then you can see the outliers beyond us. For if you want that in dollar values, whereas on the house of $150,000 assessed value, which will be used quite a bit in the comparisons because that's what the county looks at. They put out a chart every year, and that's the comparable. So that town of Boston resident would have $151 going to town general fund and highway fund tax, compared to Eden would be $424, Concord would be $264. So if you were to equalize all of those out, because the equalization rate of every town is not the same, and I know the county is talking about taking over equalizations and doing a full reassessment of the whole county. Hopefully that's not anytime soon. But if that were to happen and you equalize out all the towns to 100%, then you would see the town of Boston's would come from here to there. Because our assessment rate is currently 52%, and then other towns like Alma, who have a 4% equalization rate right now, would have a huge change, and then Newstead, who did a reassessment this year, they don't have as much of a change either because they just did one. So we are still 6th lowest town tax rate in Erie County. Yay! So there was a little bit of movement on the list, but we have kept the number 6 spot, and that is again on the town and county, or highway and general fund taxes. So that is these two lines. You do also see on your tax bill fire, lighting, ambulance, depending on if you're in any of those districts. You may have water, but those are not comparable across all the towns, so those are excluded from that comparable tax rate. So the budget for last year, here's what was by taxes. If you look at the first page of the budget, you'll see our budgeted expenditures for the year, followed by all the revenues other than taxes, property taxes. So those are sales tax, that's interest, that's departmental revenue. This third column is the amount of money we're planning to spend out of fund balance, or basically out of our savings account. Whatever money was left over from prior years is being reallocated to be spent this year. And then property tax revenue, this is the column by the tax rate. So the breakout of the taxes for 2024, we had the largest chunks of taxes came from garbage, highway, and fire, with water also making up a big portion, and then the other funds had small chunks. So I mentioned fund balance. Fund balance is basically the savings account, whatever money is left over after all your expenses are made. You can increase fund balance by bringing in more revenue than expected, or by not doing all of the projects and not spending all the money you planned. You have classifications of fund balance. There is non-spendable money, which is tied up in like prepaid items, such as you pay something now for later, which the only thing we book at for that is the New York State retirement system. And then there's restricted, committed, and assigned, which are all designated by different authorities. So like you get a grant, it's assigned for only the grant purpose. If you make a reserve account, then the money is committed to that reserve account purpose. And then anything else left over would be unassigned fund balance. So as of the end of the year in '23, which was the last financial report we filed, our reserve account balances are down here. In the general fund, we have $460,000 across drainage, recreation, buildings and parks, tax stabilization, senior facility, and trisequential, that is correct, right here. Then we have highway fund reserve at $300,000, ambulance reserve, that is no longer technically a reserve. We did a resolution at the beginning of this year, which is allocating that to the purchase of the reserve of the ambulance this year, and then once that is purchased and exhausted, it will become regular ambulance fund money. And then water reserve is excess money from a bond a while back. And then again, those other classifications I have up here, anything that is colored down here is colored up here, and then this is where our fund balance ended at the end of 2023, with the expected change for 2024, where we expect to end up at the end of 2024, and then through the budget process, what we're planning to spend, and then where we're planning to end up at the end of 2025. We also have something we implemented called a fund balance policy, which is how much money are you supposed to be keeping on hand so that you can fulfill all your obligations before the tax levy comes in of the next year. So we know we're going to have January and February garbage bill. We have to have enough money on hand to make it through till the taxes come in on March. So garbage, we should have $196,000 on hand. Right now, at the end of the year, we're expecting to have $152,000. So we know that our garbage is below where our fund balance policy says it should be. We should be working to build up that a little bit higher to get it closer to this. Whereas the general fund, $1.7 million, is way over what we need to keep on hand for $480,000. So there is positive and negative to that. The positive being it does help us go out for bonding. It does help us stay more tax stable while we face upturn in the economy. It does help us go and fulfill projects without having to go out to finance, and we can pull money out of fund balance. The downside is that we are technically over our fund balance policy, and that could be noted in an audit. But as long as you're making plans with it, then it's not usually an issue. Like I said, there are positives and negatives. So going into 2025, again, with the summary screenshot, we are expecting to spend $6.8 million. Of that, we are gonna have 2.7 million of revenues coming from sales tax, interest, departmental revenues, a total of 740,000 spent out of our fund balance, out of our savings, if you will, and 3.4 million of that will come from taxation. So of the total town revenues, again, the 6.8 million total revenues, this is a visual. The property tax is 50%, sales tax 22%, and then all the other funding sources make up the rest. Then if you look at our expenditures, we've got 23% goes to salaries, 8% to employee benefits, then we've got 12% general fund, 7% equipment, 7% highway fund, 16% fire, 14% garbage, debt is 7%, lighting is 3%, and EMS is 3%. So for our, back to our summary, for the 25 and from 24, we are increasing the fire fund tax rate, we're increasing garbage, and water 1. We're also going to have a slight increase in some of the other ones, due partly from assessment value changes as well as a small increase in other things. So our total levy for 24 was 3.3 million. Our total levy for 25 is 3.4 million. We are going up $96,000 and $610 to be exact. That is broken down assessed value changes because of the change in taxable values on the assessment roll is going to be 7,000 of that increase. The garbage fund is going to have a $6 per parcel increase, which is 18,882. The garbage fund is also anyone who has an additional tote that they purchase will have a 5% increase in that cost. That's $350 total. The fire fund has a 5% increase going on it because of our contract cost there. That's going to be $40,541. Our lighting fund will have a 20% increase, which is $2,255. That is because energy rates skyrocketed. We gave a 20% decrease last year, and now we're having to go back up that 20% because we are seeing a lot quicker decrease in our fund balance there than we planned. The Water District 1, 15% increase because we are finally starting all those water projects we've been talking about. Unfortunate for the tax increase, but great for the residents, hopefully. And then lastly, changes to the unpaid items, the water and the property cleanup bills. Those are on specific residents who did not pay. So if you don't have that situation, you don't have to worry about that. And that breaks out the whole $96,000. So again, under the tax cap, we are officially under by $6,185. We take the levy from last year, you've got the tax-based growth factor, the 2% tax cap factor, and then carry over from last year, and then our levy, and we are under by $6,000. So our rate changes, again, like I said, fire, we're gonna have a 5% increase, light 20% increase, $6 per parcel increase for garbage, 5% on additional totes, and 15% on Water District 1. The rest are all staying the same rate. So if you break that down to the 150,000 assessed value household, it will break down to general fund cost per day is 10 cents a day, your total tax $35.78 for the year. Highway, $218 for the year, which is 60 cents a day. You go down the list, highway, fire, light, ambulance, refuse. If you don't have any of those, obviously it won't show up in your tax bill. Water, the high and the low, it's just if you have water, you are charged a higher rate. If you don't have water but you're in the district, you still have a minimal rate that you have to pay. So I talked about assessed value. That is your tax on the assessed value less any exemptions, which on your tax bill you have something also shown as the full market value. That is determined by the equalization rate. That is the part that is in between there. So equalization rate is New York State's measure of a municipality's level of assessment. 2024, our equalization rate dropped to 52%. Our last full assessed value or equalization rate of 100% was in 2012, so it's been a while. Reading your tax bill, the assessed value shows up here, full market value next to it right there, and the equalization rate would be right there. This is obviously a couple years old now, but to read your tax bill, you have your demographic information up here. Like I said, the property values here, your exemptions are at the bottom. So you subtract exemptions from your assessed value, get your taxable value. You take your taxable value, multiply it by the levy over there, or by the rate, and you get your tax amount. The total levy is the total amount for the whole municipality. You can also see that on this tax bill, the town has the sections in red, and the county has the sections in purple. The county levies the tax on the library and the county, and the sewer, we levy on the categories that we already discussed, the fire, general, highway, water. In this example, as we said in prior examples with the pie chart, the town had $220, the county got $1,919. It is all combined on the tax bill. It is not separated out. It is all just jumbled together. But in this example, like I said, town gets less and the county gets more, all based on the rates. The county tax rates, you can all go out and look online and see comparable to other towns. Like I said when I did the graphs, this is from the real property tax comparison set out by Erie County every year. So it shows you what the school tax rate is, county tax and town tax, and then also equalization rate and assessed value are over there as well. So you could take any of these numbers and put in your house's assessed value on your tax bill and figure out your tax. So I already mentioned the exemptions, they're down at the bottom, and how you would subtract those out. Exemption deadline to apply is March 1st. They are, some of the examples are senior, veteran, agriculture, and every year on the end of the budget, there is an exemption impact report that shows how much is excluded from taxable property throughout the year. So actually, in 2024, there was, on the assessment roll, which goes into the 2025 budget, $71 million of property that is exempted from taxes. And those break out, you've got all those different exemption codes that break down into that much of exempt property. So to compare the last few years of taxes, you can see that garbage has unfortunately been going up every year, while we've kept ambulance the same. Light, like I said, went down and then back up. General, we dropped last year, but we kept the same this year, and highway's been pretty steady. Fire's also gone up this year. Water has been pretty steady. You can't really tell much, but the water one did go up. Over the last 15 years, this is just a nice chart to see kind of the trend of how each of the funds' tax rates have been going. General fund's down lower than it's been. Fire is higher than it's been. Balance and active is what it is. Highway has been steady, ambulance steady, and then garbage is increasing. So nice chart again of, this is just the 25, I showed you 24. Similar breakout, the small adjustments is actually garbage picked up another %, highway lost 1%, and water got 1%, and so very minor changes. Overall, your big three contenders are garbage, highway, fire, and then water trails behind them. For the general fund, your 4% of your town tax goes to all the employees and their benefits, the cost to run all the departments, the town clerk, assessor, all of the dog control, historian, summer concerts, senior programs, youth programs, advisory boards, maintain the town parks, the town buildings. And some of the large projects we're looking to do are the EV charging station, which is in the works. The tennis court has been resurfaced. We're looking to do a fence. We are looking for a new parks tractor next year, and maybe a new stage for concerts. For the personnel services, for the change from 24 to 25, we are looking at a increase of $127,000. That breaks out to adding 2 new positions into the code enforcement office. We've been talking about doing this for a while. There is a lot of development going on in town, and who we have currently staffed there is not enough to cover it all. So that'll be adding an assistant to code and a part-time code officer. Then their assessor and the full-time code enforcement officer have been in high demand, so they are also getting an increase to their salary. Then there is an increase to elected officials. 9 elected officials will split $13,000, and then the remaining appointed employees, 27 people, will split $25,000. So for raises, some of the things you have to think about is why and how much you want to give. And to succeed, you have to set your priorities, and right now, this year, staffing is a big priority for us. So putting our time and our money where our priority is, and that is keeping our staff. Our factors that we put into considering wages and raises are inflation. Yes, inflation has technically slowed down. It's only 3% this year compared to 6% last year. However, if you look at cumulative factors, things add up. $1,000 in August 2024 is the equivalent of $861 3 years ago. So yes, we are not at the peak anymore, but we are still feeling the cumulative effects, mainly in the fact that inflation, while it goes up and down, does lead to price increases. So here you can see that costs have gone way up, even if the inflation from year to year has not gone up this year as much as prior years. So here's different factors of ground meat is way up, milk has come up, eggs have come up in the last few years. Another measure to look at people don't think about is the producer price index. It's more volatile than the consumer price index, but it gives you a look into more of the future, because when the producer prices go up down the line, the consumer prices will go up. So the forecast for producer price index is that eggs are rising 20%, milk is rising 11%, but then wheat is expected to go down. So you probably can't read this, but at the top of there, eggs are expected to increase 126%, followed by orange juice and bread at 71 and 54% as well. So here is a chart. This is a study done by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, saying that the red line here is showing, the blue line is the cumulative consumer price index since 2020. So it's saying that it's raised 20.8% since 2020. And the red line is how much the average earnings have gone up in that time, saying it's gone up 22%. That's saying that the average worker has actually increased their purchasing power by 1.5%. However, that's only if your raises have gone up 22.1%. At the town here, our raises have gone up 15% in the last 4 years. So that leads to shrinking purchasing power of the staff. The increases since 2020 have been 15%, whereas the inflation rate by the OSC lines has been 17.4%. So you can see that over there, and then on this one, I took the part-timers hourly wage because we have 11 out of 36 of our general fund staff are at the part-timer wage. So comparison over the years, 2023, they definitely fell, the town's rate, which is in blue, fell to 58% lower than where they'd be if the town had followed inflation. 2024, 24% below where they'd be if the town had followed inflation in giving raises. Another factor to consider, minimum wage increases. The governor announced that after the 2024, it's going to go up in relation to CPI. But in the meantime, this year, it's a 50-cent increase. So that looks the last few years of minimum wage increases versus what the town gave on the first graph. And then our nutrition staff is our lowest paid wages right now. So I did this graph using their their wages to show that we've been squeezing them closer and closer to minimum wage by not giving proper increases compared to minimum wage there. Another factor to consider is employee retention. We've had a lot of staff leave in the last 2 years. Yes, we do have the benefits of a shorter workday, state retirement, a lot of time off, but we also have little opportunity for paid overtime or promotion, no disability pay, FMLA, or sick leave, New York State sick leave law, which to some employees that does matter. Like I said, we had 8 new hires in 2024, 3 of which have already left, 5 new hires in 2023, so that's 13 out of 44 general fund and highway fund positions, which is almost 30% of our staff have turned over in 2 years. Currently, we have 2 town hall positions vacant and not advertised, and we have 2 positions in the interviewing stage. Each job posting costs around $600. We can't even get applicants though. We've had to start posting the job boards. It takes a lot more time to review resumes. So we're trying to really keep who we have here. So that's all factors we want to think about when we talk about wages and raises. And lastly, we have to think about our other contracted services, not just how much we give our employees, but we have to look at health insurance going up 15%. So that's coming right out of their pockets. We also heard that there's another double-digit increase coming next year. Don't know the exact expectation, but it's around 10 to 15% again. We also have to look, if we're not willing to pay our own town employees a certain dollar value, why are we allowing our contracts to settle at that? We have waste management settling at 5%, fire companies settled at 5%. So we need to be able to pay our employees as well. And then the union also had a 5% increase, which is $15,000 over 6 employees. I found a study that talked about housing in Erie County, and to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in New York State, you'd need $40 an hour. If you look at Erie County specifically, you would need to be making $20.56 an hour, which right now, all of our part-timers make below that. But moving on to salaries of elected officials, here's where they are. That's 5% increase over the prior year for all the electeds. Comparison of them to our, like I said, our comparable towns based on population. We are in red to kind of try and stand out. We generally fall behind Concord and Newstead in most of them, other than the highway super, but we are behind Eden and just about all of them. General fund revenue sources, all of the things we've just talked about are funded by 51% of it is sales tax, 9% and 9% are court fines and mortgage tax, 8% property tax, and then smaller portions come from franchise fee, trooper barracks rent, AIM funding, departmental incomes, and interest. Obviously, I know you can't read this. If you want to look it up later or come talk to me, we can. Things I want to highlight is we have an increase on our ban issuance of $8,000 because our ban tripled this year. So part of the cost of the issuance is tied to how much we actually issue. It's a calculation. Our engineer, we moved some of that funds to transfer to capital projects because all of our engineering fees are pretty much related to capital projects lately. We're leaving $20,000 in the general fund and moving $30,000 to the capital projects fund. Records management, we are going to have a maintenance agreement for the DocuWare program. Our central communications, we're looking at getting maybe tablets for the town board and going more paperless. It's an option we're looking into, as well as we have all of the software programs that we have maintenance for every year. For insurance, we are seeing a $9,000 increase in the early estimates for that. We have, we're putting money into code enforcement, potentially equipment for office furniture. If we get new people, we need places to put them with desks and such. We have, as I mentioned, the tractor in the parks equipment line for $17,855. We have 2 historical markers in the historian lines looking to replace one and add a new one, so that's exciting. Celebrations, it was an interesting topic. Fireworks increased $5,000. We also need new flags. Every year we've had a little bit extra there, so we could probably increase fireworks a little more than 5,000, but we are also looking to see if there's any ways to get a better deal, maybe looking at new vendors if that is a feasibility, or see what deals we can get for that. Drainage and erosion, we decreased even further, only $500 in each of those budgets, but we do have the reserve fund at over $135,000 now. So if we do have a project come up that is a valid town expense, we can do a resolution and pull the money out of there. We have a increase in brush and leaf pickup, $6,000, taking us to $71,000 for that service provided by the highway department. And then employee benefits are increasing. Retirement, $19,000, Social Security, $10,000, medical insurance, $7,000. All those costs going up. So highway fund, then that's 25% of your taxes. It's this highway guys, workers, and their employee benefits and their salaries, the cost of salt and sand, stone, asphalt, repairs of roads, repairs of equipment, all of that stuff. We are planning $200,000 just about in new equipment. Being that one of the plow trucks that was planned for 2024 is going to be purchased for 2025 instead. The excess money from 24 will roll over into fund balance at year end and then be used towards that because next year's planned purchase was moved up to this year and this year is planned for next year due to supply chain demands. For the wages for highway, it does not. There is a 5% increase in the contract for their raises. The overall dollar value of the budget does not go up 5% because we had a retirement. And when you do that, one of the higher paid MEO 5s is now an MEO 1, so they cost less. So it's not a straight 5% increase across the board. It is based on the actual people holding the positions and how much those would be calculated to. Overall, it's about a 3% increase in the raises there, or on the overall line items. So salary increase, like I said, 5%. Retirement's increasing 13%. Social Security, $1,000. Workers' comp and health insurance we kept the same because any raises should be able to be within the current budget. State aid is expected to stay the same. General repairs and machinery, like I said, are expected to stay the same, and then snow removal as well is expected to stay the same. So we've had a stretch of time when we didn't do any equipment purchases, and we had a stretch of time where we did a bunch of equipment purchases, and now we're back to, we're trying to do equipment purchases, and equipment's not coming in. We are having extremely long wait times, but we're trying. Bob puts in requests at least once a year for new equipment, and we are fulfilling them to our best of our abilities. We're just waiting on them to actually come through. We had a lot of people talk about this year, what is chip stone, or chip seal, oil and stone, what is NovaChip? The benefits of chip seal, it is a lot cheaper. Asphalt or NovaChip tends to last longer. You're gonna have people who like both, who don't like both, but we have been doing both for the last couple of years, depending on the roads. Revenue for the highway, how are all these funded? By mostly property tax, some sales tax, and then state aid. We do also have interfund revenue. It actually should be 71%, not 65. Actually, I didn't hide last year. So, yeah, last year was 65, interfund revenue is now 71. You can see property tax year to year. Pretty similar. Fire fund, we have a 5% increase in all of our contracts. That is a total increase of $32,307. We have a 2% increase in dispatch from the Hamburg. HealthWorks is expected at 10% or $10,000. I did add a new code for the service award contractual because when we submitted our report last year, for the state comptroller, we were audited and told that we should have LoSAP associated fees in a different account code. So that is a new account code. It has the Provident Life Insurance, PenFlex, and Pinsky Laws fees in it. That does not change the amount allocated to the PenFlex for the benefits. That is actually, we're increasing it by $25,000. We hope to do 50, but we also hope to use more sales tax, and because of sales tax projections being not very good right now, we're only doing $25,000 increase there. But it is an increase. So the players for the LoSAP award program nationwide is where the money sits, it's where it grows. Landmark is the people who allocate it and try and grow it, and then PenFlex is the math people who do the calculations. We are currently in the process of possibly changing away from PenFlex, but for right now, our annual reports are all PenFlex, so that's what I have on here. You can see that our fund ratio has been dropping every year because we have not been making our required contribution. This year, 2023 and 2024, we finally not only made but exceeded the contribution thanks to excess sales tax. We did turn around the fund ratio by a nice 3%, but it's progress. So we were expected to drop another 2% had we not done that, so we actually saved 5% by doing that. So the fund ratio is up to 42%. It is, we have an unfunded liability of 3.38. So like I said down here, our contribution for 23, 24, we're both over the required amount, and then 2025, we're budgeting 325, which is less than the requested amount, but hoping to use sales tax if we have any excess. If not, then we're working to build it up. So just some more information from the annual report is the amount of the contribution requested. So 2024 is 412. Like I said, we are putting in 434 this year due to excess sales tax, so we did exceed the 24 contribution. This is just a history. You can see the yellow is the years we really did not make the amount that was requested. We had large dips in funding that year, and then the two that are highlighted in blue are the years that we actually met and exceeded the contribution requested. So net program assets are the value of the cash, the stocks, the bonds that are all invested. The actuarial accrued liability is the benefit earned by the firefighters that the town is obligated to pay out. So if you take those and subtract them apart, you get the unfunded liability, which is at 3.338 right now, which is the amount that the town will need to come up with if this program has to be paid out right now, this instant. It was 3.3 million. So because we only have assets of 2.4 million instead of the 5.7 million, we are funded at 42%. We met 2 years ago now, or 3 years ago now, to determine options forward for how do we get this to stay a valid program because we have threats of insolvency. Some of the options were to freeze the program, terminate the program, or change the plan. We are currently working on the fourth option of getting the funded ratio back up by exceeding or making the suggested contribution. So that's our current path. Those are the other options if we or any future town board does not want to continue on this path. But the other parts of firefighter, how much it takes to outfit a single firefighter, this is stuff that comes up in conversations of how much money to give the actual fire company. Takes around $10,000, probably closer to 15 now, for the full outfit of a firefighter. Then for ambulance, our other emergency service, we have, last year was an $80,000 contract with them. We also had $40,000 in equipment that we kept in a reserve fund. We are now going to structure it where the ambulance squad has to keep that equipment money for themselves and manage it for themselves, because the town should not be buying their equipment. But that will be worked into the contract, but we are looking to still keep that $40,000 for equipment for them, $80,000 in contractual for them, so net of $120,000 to them. Then we also have dispatch, like the fire companies. We have physicals, like the fire companies, and then unique to EMS, we also have the building utilities, part of their contract. We have workers' comp and their LoSAP is a defined contribution, which is slightly different than the fire companies. We also, as I mentioned, the ambulance. We have the first half paid of the new ambulance. By contract, the contract was signed by Boston Emergency Squad in January of 2024 for $273,213. That was split into 4 payments. The first one was at contract signing, the second one was at delivery of the chassis. So those 2 have been both met. The third one is at when they start actually building it, and then the last one will be at delivery. So we are waiting on payment 3 and 4 needing to be made, which will be $136,606 owed on it. And right now our reserve fund, which I mentioned, is $137,000. So we do have enough money in there right now. Yay, thank you, interest. And then it was structured in a resolution at January that once the ambulance is paid off, any money in the reserve fund will go back to the ambulance fund to be used towards any contractual expenses. And then a good news for the other ambulance is that we paid that off last month. So, yay. The EMS, like I said, they will now be having to manage their own equipment. Previously, every budget discussion came up with what did they need. They had talked about ambulances, heart monitors, Lucas devices, tough books. Luckily, they've had grants not only from the town giving them money, but they've had a FEMA grant. They recently got a grant from a senator or congressman, I'm not positive. But they also had one from Legislator Mills. For the lighting fund, less than 1% of your tax, but it is light all the lights through the center of town. We did manage to decrease both our usage and our cost back in 2019 when we did LED conversions. And we were able to ride that wave for a good few years, and then we had the supply rate issues start happening. Our supply contract rate doubled in 2022. It didn't affect us too much until we had another one in 2023. Now our costs are up to where they were pretty much back before the LED conversion. Not quite, but almost. Our utility rates, as I mentioned, we this year did enter into 3-year agreements, so we should be able to predict where they are for the next 3 years. Luckily, their bill is slightly decreased from prior year's rates, but they are not as good as the rates we had 3 years ago. Unfortunate, but it is. Then for garbage, our biggest issue here has been recycling. We talked about blended value for the last few years. It was really good at first, and then not so good when the markets turned on us. So our recycling costs have been about $30,000 a year now for the last 2 years. That comes from newspaper and cardboard is not really getting as much for a rate as it used to, so when they can't sell it, we don't get the rebates. We also implemented at your door for a few years ago now. If you ever want a video to see what you are available to use, it's there. Basically, you can do garden chemicals, pool chemicals, automotive material, paint products, miscellaneous household, flammable, combustible cleaners, sharps, electronics, circuit boards. All of those things are fun. What you cannot do is biological waste. Fire extinguishers, food waste, cooking oils, asbestos, tires. So here's a nice list. There's more on their website, but is a program we really try and make sure our residents know that you can take advantage of. You don't have to wait for one of those Erie County recycling events to go and wait to drop off your paint cans. You can have Waste Management come right to your door. It is part of the service you pay for. So our contract was bid out in 2019. We did at that point go to totes, love rate them. It's what we were kind of forced into by Waste Management. Outside of the totes, you can also buy stickers at the town clerk's office for $3 each for extra bags. You can also get an additional tote. It started at $125, and then each year the contract increased to 5%. So if you go to the town clerk's office, she'll have you pay a prorated amount for the year, and then it'll be added onto your tax bill. We have, kept track of how many stickers and how many totes have been sold. Roughly 50 residents have extra totes, and well over 1,000 stickers have now been sold. Our contract for garbage collection has had a 5% increase in it for the last 3 years. And then coming up next year on July, we have a net uncapped percentage of change over a 12-month period tied to CPI. So we don't know what to expect for our contract increase. We're hoping it's 5% or below. We'd really love a 2% or so, but that's an uncapped, unexpected amount. So we're budgeting based on a 5% like we've had for the last couple of years. Like I said, for blended value, here is how it actually works if you want to take the time and look at it later. But basically, we're putting a $6 increase in the garbage fund per parcel, which will take us from $2.98 a parcel to $3.04 a parcel. This figures out to, at a household level, $263 funds your garbage, $30 funds your at-your-door service, $9 funds your recycling, and then $2 per account leeway, because we have a fuel surcharge policy, and then I mentioned our fund balance is too low. And then if you wanted to look at the total for the whole fund, that's how it breaks out. But at the household level is in the green here, $6 increase to $304. The water, huge topic here. So it is only 14% of your tax, but it is a really large topic because we are starting a lot of water projects. District 1, we had the Crestwood tank repairs, we have pump station improvements and water line improvements. District 2, Rice Hill tank, pump station, generator, and then water line replacements. District 3, Woolheader tank, pump station generator. So our old debt, lucky for District 1 and 2, paid off all of their old debts, and only District 3 and the 3 extension up on Cole Road have any prior outstanding bonds, which those will be being paid on for quite a while, 2040 and 2048. So luckily for those districts, they're still paying off their water lines being put in. Luckily, they don't have any new water line projects. So when we talk about all the upcoming water line projects, those are District 1 and 2, not 3. 3 is still got their own debts though. So we have a total of water lines in the town by each district listed here, and then that's by foot and that's by mile, a little over 60 miles of water. So our ongoing projects, our first one up that we'll be discussing, here's an overview. We've got water tanks, water lines, water consolidation, a lot of water here. North Boston Park Shelter, comp plan, EV charging. We have the generator for Town Hall, the front entryway for Town Hall, tennis courts, Boys and Girls Club driveway, water tank generators, and historical markers, and then community room kitchen. I will touch on these because I don't have separate slides on them. The community room kitchen right here is Erie County Senior Services provided us with a new 10-burner gas range, single door commercial size refrigerator, commercial dishwasher, and 3-compartment hot food serving table. Most of those were delivered last week. We are still waiting on a few things like, I believe, an electrical upgrade, or just
yeah, an electrical upgrade going from 120. No, it's going from 220 to 120.
And the dishwasher.
And the dishwasher.
And the dishwasher. The Boys and Girls driveway should be repaved next week, I think, or soon.
Friday.
This week, all right.
This week, yes.
Even better. That's $33,912. And then the other ones have their own slides. So water tank repairs, we have been talking about this for a lot of years now. We are finally done. This is the before of Crestwood, and we have an after now. Those were completed in 2023, our final payments made in 2024. Here's Rice Hill before and Rice Hill after, that is inside, if you didn't know. A lot better than the rust and holes that we had going on. This is Woolheader, all the before, all the rust, and all the shiny after. Very nice before and after.
Don't shoot at it, it's not meant for target practice.
Not meant for target practice. That came at we were expecting a $1.8 million cost. Our bond resolution, we started in 2021. That's how long projects take, unfortunately. If you want to read the resolution, here is part of it. It is authorized, the town can borrow up to $1.8 million. Luckily, our bids came back. We only needed to borrow $1,013,790,000. So we saved $800,000 versus what we expected. And then we did go out to bond for that, well, bond anticipation note in 2022. And we then renewed it in 2023. And then we closed out the project in 2024, and our project came in $115,000 under budget, so sweet. So that money that was left over from the project will then be put into a reserve and used for debt pay down. So water line replacements. We did the CDBG project on Boston State Road between Ripple and Meadow. That was started in 2022. And it was just closed out this year after the comeback work was certified and paid off. Our other water projects, we went to RFQ for engineering services. We had 4 companies bid. The town is going to use CPL as primary and then Labella as secondary because those are the engineers we already use. And then ECWA also has a hand in the game for every water project we do because we are a lease managed water district. We own it, they repair it usually. They provided us a list every year of how many breaks we have and when they start recommending repairs. We have repairs that date back all the way to 2008. And then we have other repairs that are as new as the last couple of years, like they suggested recently to add a secondary source of water for certain spots. And we also had Boston State Road, prior list, went from Ludon Drive to Patchen, now it's saying Chestnut Ridge to Patchen, so expanded as more and more breaks happen. So here is on a map where we're looking at for different leaks, different parts of the project. We have roughly 6 water main breaks a year in District 1. Those pipes are, some of them 50 years old, some of them are original. They are breaking. So our original cost estimate in 2020 when we started this was $10.6 million. We then, that broke out into $10.2 million in water lines and $400,000 in pump station repairs. We've been going at this for a while, so this was old estimates, the cost estimates back a couple years ago. We were looking then at applying for CDBG grants, which we got, and then WIA. We also plan to use some ARPA funds on it, and then bond the rest of them up. We have now put in 4 WIA applications, and we've had 3 of them denied. We are in the waiting process for the most recent one, so fingers crossed. But yeah, we've had the first 3 denied. We've had a boil water advisory in the process of waiting for getting these projects to motion. So we finally are at the process of doing phase 1. Phase 1 is this part at the north end of town. We are looking to replace Heinrich Road, Zimmerman Road, South Abbott, Herman Hill, and Valley Circle. They are graph-based, or determined based on priority as well as geographic location. So phase 1, here's the linear footage, here's the expected cost. This was our initial engineering estimate of $3.8 million. That was in 2021. 2022 said the engineering estimate is now $5.2 million. We're like, oh no, this is getting more expensive. 2023, they said it's still around $5 million to do this project. But we went out to bid anyways this year, finally got the Department of Health approvals and Erie County Water approvals. We bid it in August of 2024. We have not done phase 2 or 3 yet. Those are going to be after. So in order to go out to bond or bid any of this, we had to do bond resolution saying we are going to be borrowing this money. In 2021, we did the whole project for $11 million. We amended that in 2023 saying our updated estimate is $15.6 million. So when we went out to bid, just last 2 months ago, August 2024, we had 8 bids received, only one of which exceeded the original 3.8 million. So luckily, all the costs have come down. It's not the 5 million, not the 5.2 million, not even the 3.8 million. We got a bid of 2.415741 from 716 Contracting. And there was actually 4 bids, all within 200,000. So it's a fair and accurate representation that the project costs truly have come down. We did not just get one lowball bid. So we did take the bond resolution and the bid that we got, and we did a resolution to award the bid as of the August 21st board meeting, which is 2.415 million, and then we've got 355,000 in engineering costs. So we just did a ban renewal of the water tank project with an extension to add on 2.7 million for the water lines for a total ban issuance in October of 3.7 million. So our ban sold at a interest rate of 3.69%, so we're expecting 138,000 of interest due next year in 2025. So that had to be split across all the water districts based on parcels, as well as projects. So the water tank repairs, obviously, you split out the interest based on the $1 million project, which we had one principal payment on, so it's now $987,000. You split that out for the interest, and then the 2.7 for the water lines is all on District 1, unfortunately. So we have also had the conversation of water district consolidation. We did a study on it. This is just the study. It's not happening yet. So it's been a topic of discussion. A lot of people come in angry. I'm paying a water bill. I'm in a water district. I don't have water. All of these areas that are red here, they're in a water district. They don't have water. So we did a water consolidation study with CPL, and we held a public meeting in 2023 to discuss options moving forward. Here is a more detailed map of people who have and don't have water. So if you look at District 2 in green, the dark green have water, the light green are in the district, don't have water. So in order to figure out the amount of debt load to go on this, you have to look at the old debt, you have to look at anticipated debt, and then you have to look at future projects. So if we were to extend to the green area, the Water District 2 extension would cost approximately $11 million. The area down here with the red star would be approximately $12 million, and the area down here with the yellow star would be approximately $6 million. Total project for that expansion to get the whole town water would be around $30 million. So here is maps of exact areas that would be subject to getting water if these projects were to go through. So here's the cost breakdown of each of those. Like I said, $11 million for the one, $12 million for the other, and $6 million for the third one. So how would you consider the rate? You could talk unit-based, or you could talk ad valorem, you could talk the whole district, or you could talk just the new parcels, and then you'd have to consider the existing debt as well as potential projects to figure out how you're going to charge this onto the tax. So here's a few different scenarios. There's 5 of them. Some of them include build-out, some of them are debt just as it currently is. That's if you go unit-based. Then there's also ad valorem. So the steps, if the board wanted to do this, would be they'd have to make the decision to do this. Then you'd have to make the methodology selection on how would you charge this, how would you calculate this. Finalize the map plan of who's actually getting the water build-out, do the seeker, do the public hearing, and then make an action plan of actually doing it. And then you get to charge on the tax roll after all of that. So again, that is all theoretical next steps if water build-out were to happen, because a lot of people have been wanting water build-out. Then water project summary, just to summarize everything I talked about. The water tanks, We finally completed those. The CDBG work was completed. We are now in the red of phase one, district water line replacements for phase one. We still have phase two, phase three, and then if the town were to build out or consolidate down there. So, on the topic of water, we've also had, in District 1, we've had broken pump house roofs, we've had broken hydrants, we've had to replace a station heater. These are the costs that hit the contractual line and usually come out of unanticipated fund balance because you can't anticipate a heater breaking. And then we also had the water line repairs and tank on there. District 2, we've had a pump house repair, a broken valve, a broken hydrant. In District 3, we've also had a variable frequency drive, which was $73,000. We are also awaiting bills on a broken valve and 2 broken hydrants, so those are really recent repairs. We also got notice that we need emergency generators to be updated at the tank on Woolhyder and Rice Hill. Those are actually not $98,000, $108,000. We got an updated estimate for that. And then, again, water districts. So the water tank generators, ECWA said that they upgraded their systems and it's not keeping up with the water filtration systems that they have. The emergency generators lag and are not good. They're also hard to get parts for, they're old, and they need replacement. So the 2 of them together come to $108,000. So we did approve that via resolution, and that is going to hit the 2025 budget. Those are going to come solely out of fund balance. We're not increasing taxes to account for those because they are a one-off charge. So there's that. North Boston, we can finally stop talking about that mostly. The low bid was $466,000. We got $100,000 in grant. We then had change orders. We had ARPA funds used on it. And now we have a fancy building. Our last payment was made. It is now officially the town's, and that's that. We also have the comprehensive plan update, which has been ongoing. That was the picture from the old town comp plan. And so we started this process in 2023. We authorized and accepted the proposal for CPL to do it. And we were awarded a $25,000 grant from Erie County Office of Agriculture and a $63,000 New York Smart Growth Plan. So that funds the whole project, and in taking that into consideration, we also have to have throughout the comp plan the smart growth goals from the state and the agriculture protection plan goals from the county. So those are roped into our consideration. And the intent and purpose of a comp plan is to look at the high level of the town and where we want it to go in the future. So the first step was public meetings and workshops, doing a survey, taking stakeholder. We went to the schools and got the upcoming generation to take a part of this. We talked to business owners, agricultural communities, young families, high school students, had 3 public meetings so far, and there will be a final public hearing once it goes to adoption. The survey had 233 respondents, 180 online, 53 in paper. The most valuable parts that people value about our town is the small town dynamics, the local businesses, the natural features, programs and services, and community facilities. So taking that into consideration for the rest of the comp plan development, we had to look at where our community currently is at, make a community profile, how many people are of what age demographic, who has school children, what is the household income, the rate of growth of all of these different things. We have to look at land use, which is what this parcel map is. And then we have to create a vision. Where do we want to go? So by 2035, the goal is for Boston to be a haven from the frenzy and congestion of modern life. It's a blend of small town charm with modern infrastructure. Then you develop the core values, which then makes you set your goals. Because in order to get where you want to go, you have to have measurable goals. So some of the things that business owners want to see are incentives, home-based businesses, and education. Young families want to see recreation that is safe and playgrounds. They want to see good schooling and family-oriented events. Teens want recreation and sports, food places, and places to hang with friends. And then the agricultural goals from the county are that farm labor costs, workers, tax relief, and protection from outside influences. So these are the goals that are the driving factor behind creating the vision and the rest of the plan. So then you start to set out, where do you want development through the town? So future land map use, this is all still in draft form, not final, but you'd want like mixed use right down the center of town, whereas you want the agriculture out up in the hills and out spread out. And then that's where you would use this then to create different projects through the town, different development. You'd want your, to look at any future use for the town parks or space use, maybe any changes to infrastructure like adding circles in. You'd use it for building developers. Where should any, if there's housing developments going, where do those go in? Where do those not go in? Where do you keep your agricultural land? So that's all part of the plan. So we're at the step where we've done all of the inventory, the vision, the goals, the land use plans, the action plan. We have a draft plan now. So we have to review it. There's going to be a public hearing and then implementation. So that's almost the end. Then we've been talking about an electric vehicle charging station. We got a $5,000 NYSERDA grant in 2021 that's been sitting in a fund waiting to be used because it takes a while to figure out what we're doing with that. We also just got a $10,000 Clean Energy Communities grant as well. So between the two of those, $15,000 gets us the Blink charger for free, as well as installation cost. It is covered in full, so we just authorized that for approval in June and hoping to have that by year end. That will go out here in the park. It'll be the dual port fast charger. The tennis court was identified as needing rejuvenation, if you will. So that is a Google picture view of what it was and a view of what it currently is. We also added 2 pickleball courts specifically because people did not exactly like the blended lines that we had on there, and there was a lot of draw for pickleball. We are awaiting nets, but those will be coming. And then we still do have the 2 tennis courts and the basketball court. We are also looking to get fencing, but because of the project cost, that needs to be an official bid. We did not need to do a bid for the tennis court because we were able to piggyback on another contract. So the fencing quotes, they came in $30,000 to $40,000. None of them were on state bid, county bid, or any kind of bid we could jump on piggyback. So now we have to get an engineer proposal and do a formal bid process. For the generator, it's now delivered and sitting out there, but it's not fully hooked up. So we did award the bid to Industrial Power and Lighting as of September last year. We then had the concrete pad poured, all of the trenching for the gas line and all of that done. And then we had to do a change order for the electrical hookups. The electrical is not where it was hoped to be, so it's going to be an extra cost. So our original engineering quote is $20,000, our construction $222,000, and then our change order, because we're going to have to run new electrical lines, because it was proposed to be there, now we have to go here, is a change order of $34,000. So our total project cost is now up to $276,000. And this generator then will be able to keep us functional if the power ever goes out. Hoping to have that done before the snow flies. We'll see. Town hall entryway, also another project hoping to have done before the snow flies. That was supposed to take a month. We are well past that. It has been a bit of a struggle. We identified the stairs need repair. That then ended up being a complete replacement of stairs, handrails, and pillars. Our bid opening came in at $46,525 for the low bid. We did have 6 bids. Unfortunately, for the concrete, we've had to tear it out twice because we had wavy concrete, then ponding concrete. Finally, a good pour. Now we are waiting on columns still. So, it's been slow.
Slow and steady.
And then historical markers, exciting progress there. These are the list of historical markers we do have in the town. And then we just got a new Patriot barrels refurbished through a grant this year, thanks to Frank, our historian. And then next year we are looking at doing 2 more, and I believe we have 1 on order right now, right?
Correct.
So, we've also this year received donations of a bench, football lights, and a lovely community contribution towards fireworks. So I wanted to acknowledge all of those as well. So we've had grants awarded throughout the years. I've covered these in the past. We unfortunately still have some old ones hanging out there. 2021, we still have the comp plan grants not closed out from that. Our DASNY grants date back to 2022. We still haven't received all the funding on the playground or the boiler updates. We gotta love how slow funding sometimes flows. And then 2023 and 24, we've kind of taken a step back, done a lot of trying to finish out our projects. So we've only gotten grants for the JCAP, the art service grant for the concerts, and then historical markers. But since 2018, we've done a lot of projects, both financially, with doing credit card payments, grant funding, doing LED upgrades, staying on tax cap. We've done multi-year planning, comp plan being the newest part to add to multi-year planning. We have done a lot of town hall upgrades. We've done upgrades on other structures such as the Salt Barn roof, the North Boston Park Shelter, the South Boston Playground, generator at every building except for the rec building. We've brought in the Boys and Girls Club. We've had at your door recycling. We've done community projects like the bricks, the markers, a few erosion projects with Erie County Soil and Water. So we've been doing a lot of projects. So if there's any questions or anything you want to discuss further, let me know. That's the budget and the projects.
Do you have this all on paper?
I do. It is